Hi, I'm Reva, and today in my sewing room, I thought we would talk about pressing aids. Now, if you're like me, you may have purchased a notion or two in your lifetime that you don't really remember why you got it. So I thought I would do a little recap on these products for you so you can be reminded of why you may have purchased them. So these are all from Clover, and I have here the hot ruler, the hot hammer, the Holdat Precision Stiletto, and the iron finger. And we're going to start by talking about these two right here, which is the hot ruler and the hot hammer. So here we have the hot hammer and the hot ruler. Now they are made of a compressed fiber that is really pretty cool. It's non-slip, so it's going to grip onto your fabric wherever you place it, and it has markings every ½ inch. You can see those lines there, and then every 2 inches it has markings for your 1/4 inches and 1/8 of an inch. And you will also notice that it has marked on along the edge on both of them a 1/4 of an inch, a ½ inch, and 3/4 of an inch, and then 1 inch, and then up to 2. And these are just very common seam allowances or hem allowances, so that's why those are marked at that position. Now, let's look at the hot hammer specifically. This is the very first hammer tool that Clover came out with that is in this type of material. The material can be ironed and it can be steamed, and it doesn't get hot. It gets warm, but it will not get hot. And that's important because if you've ever used the pressing tools that are metal, they heat up and then you're going to burn your fingers. So this has the straight edges here. It has your 45-degree angle, but it also has a curve. So if you need to press around a corner of any kind, you can do that. It also has an inside corner. So if you need to mark for a bag, if you're going to do a boxed bottom on a bag, you can measure that way. You can also use it for marking garments and pleat markings and things like that. So let me show you how this works. It's really pretty cool. So if I have my fabric here and I want to turn up a ½ of an inch, or let's do a ½ inch hem, I can slide this down and get it on the ½ inch mark, and then just take the iron, and you can iron right on it. It doesn't damage the product. It doesn't get overly hot, and you can just press away and you're good to go. So that's pretty cool there. Another thing you can do with this is do a mitered corner. So if you have this in here, let's look. I want to come in a ½ inch on the left side and a ½ inch up on the bottom. That's pretty good. So let me fold this in so I have my 45-degree corner turned already, and I'm just going to give that a little press. So now I'm just going to slip that right underneath the hammer, and then I can fold up one edge, give that a press, and then I'll fold up the next edge and give that a press, and we have a beautiful mitered corner. You see how nicely that matches up? That's really great. So when we take this away, we'll have a perfect mitered corner. Now the hot ruler is very similar to the hot hammer in that it's made of the same type of material, and it still has the same markings on it, but it is longer. This is a 10-inch long piece, and it is 10 by 2.5, and it is great for doing longer strips or lengths of fabric that you need to work with. Any kind of measuring you need to do at your ironing board, you want to use your hot hammer or your hot ruler. I like having both because I do like having the length of this one. I like the inner corner of this one along with the rounded edge here and the deeper measurements here to work with. But this is great at your ironing surface because then you're not going to melt a ruler. You're not working with metal that's going to get hot. You can make any marks that you need to because you have the markings right here on the hot ruler, and you're good to go. So I think you're going to find either one of these very convenient to have at your ironing station. So now let's talk about the other two items. This is the Holdat Precision Tip Stiletto, and it has two different ends. One is a stiletto, so anywhere where you want to put your finger near a needle, you can use this instead. It keeps your fingers away from there. It has a curve on it, so you can keep the tool away from the needle and you can still see what you're doing, and it's very comfortable to use in your hand. So that's for that purpose. And then this end has a silicone heat-resistant end that has a chisel tip on it. You see that? So it has a flat end, and then it also has the rounded end that you can use. Now, usually when we're pressing our pieces open, your seams open, you press that flat, and then you're going to come in with your iron and get next to your finger, and that can be not so safe. So with the Holdat Precision tool, I can come in here and get that silicone and just get that and hold that open, and I just work the tool right in front of the iron, and I keep my fingers completely away from the heat of that iron. So that's a really, really awesome tool, especially if you have lots of blocks you're going to be pressing open. I like to have one of these at my ironing station, and then I have one by my sewing machine so I can use the stiletto. Now the next tool, which is pretty cool, and this is called an iron finger. Now what it is a silicone piece that has a spatula end and then a round and blunt end to it. This spatula is flexible, so if you want to use it to hold things down, you can do that. It has a point and a curve to help smooth things out, and then you can also use the barrel of it as a seam roll. So I have two pieces of fabric that have been stitched together, and I want to turn them right side out. So this is very much like if you're doing a pillow or something like that. So if you take a look, we're going to get that in there and get that opened up. And I'm going to bring over my iron and start to press this. And as I go, I can use the edge of that spatula edge to open or to push out that seam. So I get a nice, crisp, pretty press on that. Then if you are working with a garment or something like that and you need to open up a seam, but it's in a sleeve, or it's a fabric that you don't want to have the press marks or the indentation, you can very easily use this for a seam roll, and just open it up, and then you have a nice pressing surface that you can open up that seam into. And sometimes we're working on projects like bags and things like that, and it's really hard to get into an area without damaging or creasing the fabric in a different area. These tools are awesome to have in your pressing area. We have the hot ruler and the hot hammer, and both of these don't get hot like metal would. They are great for doing hems and other types of measuring where you're measuring and pressing at the same time. They have the ruler measurements on them plus 45-degree angles for you to work with. Then for other pressing aids, we have the iron finger, which has that spatula end, which is flexible, but it only flexes up and down, not sideways, so it's very stable, and it's great for turning out fabrics and seams, and nice size to grip onto. And then of course the handle can be used for an ironing surface for a seam roll. And then we also have the Holdat Precision Stiletto, and this is great as a stiletto, and it's also great to keep your fingers away from that iron while pressing open seams. So these are things that are just a must to have in our sewing room and near our iron, so we can do a better job and not burn ourselves. So I hope you have enjoyed this little informational about tools that you can have in your sewing room.